Okay. What is the ocean?
It's a really personal experience that we all have with the ocean, I think, and we all have something different to take from it.
The ocean gives us 50% of all the oxygen that we breathe. So if you take in 2 breaths right now, one of those breaths came from the ocean, which is pretty cool.
The ocean is critical to life.
And what's so special about the ocean is that it is not just one thing.
It's a source of happiness, of livelihoods, of amazement when you're floating out there and watching lumps of energy turn into crazy shapes, and source of culture for a lot of people.
It's a place of spiritual connection. It's a place of food, and it's a place of ceremony. There's great power and great meaning to our people.
The ocean is home. It's a place I can always come back to, no matter where I am. As long as there's a coastline there, I know that I can go for a swim in the morning and everything's going to be okay.
It's been my playground for 70 years. It's also been my classroom and the best teacher I ever had.
It's a bit different to the terrestrial environment. It's that unknown, the secrets that it holds.
So graceful. Just being out there at one with nature, whether it be a rising sun, a setting sun, sea eagles overhead, dolphins swimming by. Those moments, you feel so at one and so at peace and so happy. You just can't explain. It just pulls you.
The Great Southern Reef is the amazing reef that nobody knows about. There is this hidden treasure under there. 70% of the species here are only found here, only within this area. When you compare that to the Great Barrier Reef, almost all of those species are found right around the world. The Great Southern Reef, it's not only amazing and a biodiversity hotspot, but it also contributes over $50 billion to our economy every year. If you look even just at the abalone and the rock lobster fishery here on the Great Southern Reef, we actually make more than the whole Great Barrier Reef combined. You know, we've got marine parks there because they've been nominated as places of biodiversity that are important for our ecosystems, but we are seismic blasting and putting oil rigs on top of these systems.
Seismic blasting is essentially a tugboat running transits through the ocean, and they're tugging big long streamers. And from the tugboat, they have these instruments called air guns, and they utilise those air guns to emit a really loud blast into the ocean, and it bounces off the different layers of the earth in order to find oil or gas reservoirs. I have worked in the seismic industry as a marine fauna observer. I would be standing on these vessels as they seismic blasted, and I'd be looking around to see if there was any whales that were transiting through the area. If they moved within 500 metres of the vessel, we would shut down operations. I'd be there with my binoculars, and if an animal popped up, we would stop operations, but only within 500 metres. Visibility out there was rarely perfect. The sea state, the direction of the sun, if it was raining, if it was twilight, you're lucky to see anything. I can't see what's under the water. Don't forget you're missing everything behind you. You can only look in one place at one time, given there is only one of you on board. If you see something, that's great, but there's a lot of animals that you don't see that don't come to the surface, let alone when the sun goes down. This method of mitigating impacts to one group of animals, only whales, is fraught with holes. And guess who it benefits? It's almost by design incredibly weak. Crayfish were found to have the equivalent of their human inner ears. They're called statocysts. It enables them to understand which way is up. They were found to have the hairs on them completely obliterated by seismic blasts, which impacts them when they're trying to, say, escape from a predator. The more I learnt, the more I became horrified of what I was facilitating. And so I decided to, rather than facilitate, to step away and against, because it's not right.
Yeah, all we do, scallops and crays. We do scallops in the winter time and crays in the summer. Probably two of the most affected species with this seismic activity. So, you know, we've got to keep an eye on what's going on with it pretty well. I mean, my family's been in the fishing industry for generations, you know, so yeah, I've been in it all my life. I know firsthand what it was like back in 2010, and yeah, it's dangerous shit. You don't want it going on around your fishing grounds, that's for sure. When they done the seismic testing in Bass Strait, we've been watching a bed of scallops grow for the last 3 or 4 years. As we do, we sort of survey them every year, and we watch them from when they're only little fellas right up until they get to size, and then we decide when we're going to harvest them, how many we'll take out of it and whatever else. That particular year, the scallops was going to be harvested that season. A few months beforehand, they done the seismic testing. Yeah, they went up and down there for something like 2 months, just blasting. We had something like 24,000 tonne locked up, $70 million worth. And it was going to be a bumper year. Yeah, we went back there not long after they'd finished, and the scallops was in really poor condition, and then they just got worse and worse and worse and worse over the next month or two. And in the finish, everything in the area was dead. And it wasn't only scallops, you know, it was, you know, we get a few starfish, a few flathead, spiny oysters, cockles, a few different things in your dredge from time to time. Just everything in the area seemed to be dead. We couldn't find anything alive. It was like an atomic bomb had gone off in there and just killed everything in the area. And yet, you know, 20 or 30 mile further south, we still had another bed of scallops, similar age and everything else. So we done tests on them and that's fine. So, you know, that's away from where the seismic activity was. We all had no doubts that there was a seismic activity that caused it.
We've been doing seismic research now for about 10 years, and we feel a really important part of it is to get out and you know, share the results of our research, share the hard data that we spend so much time to collect. It is important to note that by being in this, I don't support or oppose any of the parties involved in this, in seismic surveys in general, and community advocate organizations. So I'm just here to really communicate the science, what we know so far. Our research really got kicked off after a large-scale scallop bed die-off in 2010 that the fishing industry thought was linked to a previous seismic survey. Prior to that, we really didn't know anything about the effect that seismic surveys might have on marine invertebrates. Most research had kind of focused on large, charismatic animals like whales that rely a lot on their hearing for communication and finding their food. So we knew next to nothing about invertebrates. And because scallops and lobsters are such an important seafood industry in Tasmania, those were the first species we started to look into. Out of that project, we found that scallops were pretty severely impacted by our exposure to a single air gun. And it left them in a state of basically blood chemistry was thrown off. They couldn't regulate it anymore, and they had potential impacts to their immune systems. With lobsters, they showed this persistent damage to their sensory system, and that had impacts on their reflex abilities and their ability to orient themselves in space and kind of coordinate movements. Before our first plankton study, it was assumed that airgun blasts had an effect out to 10 meters from the source on plankton. It was fairly limited. Our study has found that when we tracked the density of plankton after an airgun pass, it opened up a hole in the biomass 1.2 kilometers wide. So that effect is, orders of magnitude bigger than what was previously assumed. The number of dead plankton versus live plankton doubled after the airgun exposure. So we concluded that the airgun basically killed a large proportion of those plankton. We found that the only krill that we caught in our nets were dead. It's an area that is of real concern because if we're seeing lots of krill being killed, they form a really important part of the food web and are one of the main things that humpback whales eat. The max that you'd see in a seismic survey is in probably the 250, 260 decibel region. And the important thing to know is that decibel scale is logarithmic. So it's actually like a 3 decibel increase is a doubling in power.
These seismic blasts are going on all day and all night and all week and all month. And that impact becomes really big, really quickly.
We got seismic blasts going off every so many seconds over a 3 to 4 month period. What they're doing with impunity, if I or you or anybody else were to go and do that, we'd be in jail. We'd be shut down. There's no community support whatsoever, whether you're a crayfisherman on King Island, whether you're a surfer, whether you're a small-scale fisherman like me, or whether you're a child or a concerned member of the community. We don't want you in our Southern Ocean. And the whales, it interrupts their song lines, you know, it's very, very important. That's how they communicate. If our kids are going to have a future, if our oceans are going to survive, if our mutton birds still be able to fly from one end of the earth to the other and get sustained on the fish life that's around here, we have to make those decisions. And they're not hard decisions, you know. Everyone's affected by this. The only ones affected by stopping it will be the companies.
This area in particular, where they want to do the seismic blasting, is really special in a lot of ways. It's whale migration paths that come down the east and west coast of Australia, and some of them go over the west coast of Tas, some go down the east coast. There's just so many whales. And with a population that's growing, especially the humpback whale, which is the main whale that migrates there, the highest numbers, it's increasing each year. And that's really special. Having this blasting going on there with whales that rely on this for their hearing, I just think it's really risky. We've got species that are just starting to come back from mistakes we made a long time ago, and then we're already straight back in making more mistakes again. We need to learn from that. And that's just whales. That's just one species of whale. There's so many other species of whale that migrate through there that are a lot rarer. It's hard to get sightings of. It's the ocean. It's hard to see stuff. There's not people out there watching it all the time.
Because it is an uninhabited, a less inhabited place for humans, that it's somehow just accepted as, maybe we'll just go down to the Southern Ocean and blow some stuff up. Like, less people will care. It's just baffling that things like this come into question. It's just like, what planet are you on? The ocean is also a life source, and we also need to give back to it. It's really important that we protect it. It's really important that we treat it like a life source and treat it like it's important to us.
There's just so much life in there that we rely on, but also just so much life in there that doesn't deserve to be destroyed, you know? On a very fundamental level, it's like really unjust. We think we're more important than anything else on this planet sometimes, and that we have the right of way. All the beautiful creatures and ecosystems that are in those oceans deserve to continue to do what they do. We should be so grateful that they exist.
We're that intrinsically connected. You know, we like to think that we're a superior race and being, but we're not. We're not. We're just part of an overall thing which is beautiful. We just have to respect and appreciate it. And we're not doing a very good job at that. Not doing a very good job.
My people are the Pakana or Palawa, both meaning the same word, means Tasmanian Aboriginal people. That are my people. The ocean is very important to Aboriginal people. It's a muka, the sea country. Aboriginal people used to live all along the edges of these coastlines. They would be able to just go down and get a feed, come back, no worry in the world, come back with a fire on the beach, cook it up. That's why you see all the shell deposits, see all the middens that people see. It's all the living from the Aboriginal people, from my old people. Specifically, this area is very important to me as an Aboriginal person and my family. Yeah, well, the seismic blasting, it's 80 k's off this important place to me and my people, has a massive impact. We come from the earth, we go back to the earth. We get everything from the earth. Everything we eat, everything we do is all a part of country. So if you go and destroy it, you know you're killing yourself.
being out in the landscape and feeling it and experiencing the weather and the sounds and the smells and the salt and all of those things that the coast has. It gets me really excited to try and capture that. And for me, I try and capture it in the visual medium of painting. A huge shock, and it's really scary to learn that this destruction to the ocean and this seismic testing has potential to happen like here in my home where I grew up on the west coast of Tasmania, like in the ocean behind me, that could be affected. Yeah, it seems wild that it just is able to happen. And I can't see a way of it being a positive thing, and I absolutely can't see a way that any positives would outweigh the enormous negative effects that it's having. I just don't think that's possible. Makes me feel, yeah, mostly shocked, I think. There's some amazing people doing amazing, innovative things in terms of energy, and it makes most sense to me to be pursuing those things and pursuing that kind of future.
We're told to listen to the science, and the science tells us that fossil fuels are killing us, and if we don't make radical changes, that the species is not necessarily heading for extinction, but for some form of apocalypse. And we've been hearing this for years, so why are we testing for more?
It does scare me because I'm not even 30 and I've witnessed the effects of climate change on my doorstep. Here in Tasmania, we have a hotspot. The east coast of Tasmania is one of 6 global hotspots around the world. And this is because the Eastern Australian current is pushing warmer water further south and faster. What's happening to our local ecosystem is absolutely devastating. We've lost 99% of our kelp forests, our beautiful, beautiful productive kelp forests on the east coast. Another huge issue, not only are we seeing our ecosystems completely change from the influx of new species from up north, but our species have nowhere to go. Tasmania is the last spot on the road south. As you know, a lot of these species are endemic and they have absolutely nowhere to go. Warmer water is coming. It's coming fast. It's already here.
I'm already noticing, as a man of country, that the seasons are off. The flowers are flowering at different times. The gums were flowering at the wrong time of the year. They've just flowered, then they'll flower again later in dribs and drabs. The kangaroos are having babies at different times of the year that they've never had. They're having them in winter instead of having them in spring to late summer. The whole weather cycle's going out, and it's just a really good indicator to us going out there and visually seeing it, that we know that it is making an impact.
It doesn't matter if we want to be net zero by 2200, not 2050. You can't have new coal and gas and achieve any sort of climate policy. So natural gas is actually methane. It's methane, and methane is one of the most potent greenhouse gases on Earth, 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide at heating the planet. Gas usage in the power system has halved since 2014, while renewables have grown to over 36% of the power generated. So we've had a growth in renewables and a crash in the amount of gas used for gas power generation. And if we look going forward, the AEMO is predicting a crash upon a crash. They're predicting another 35% fall by 2030. So you've got this market that is collapsing at the time that we're seeing more renewables. This makes a total lie of what our politicians and APPIA consistently say to us, that we need more gas for the transition. We need less gas, vastly less gas, maybe we should do what we did when we switched from coal gas into natural gas back in the day. Maybe we should now look at switching from natural gas to electricity that's cheaper to heat your home with, that's more efficient, and that's better for greenhouse gases. So we have the solutions at hand today. The technology is there. We need to make the switch, and it can be done quickly.
At Sea Forest, we're growing seaweed for livestock feed supplements to reduce methane emissions in the hope of curbing climate change. We grow the seaweed out in the ocean and on land in ponds, and we utilise the seawater. And as the seaweed grows and photosynthesises, it captures the carbon and oxygenates the water that it grows in. And through a tiny amount of this seaweed being included in the diet of livestock, we can reduce up to 15% of global emissions. There's always going to be people who resist change, but then there's also moments in history like when Netflix comes out, what happened to Blockbuster? If you don't take time to pick up the pedals, the boulder bowls you over. So this is a situation where the world is changing. We care about our natural resources and our environment. We know that it's going to be important for sustaining life on this planet, and we know that it's changing rapidly, and it's our fault. So we have to be driving businesses that create better outcomes. Looking at these problems and finding solutions that enable some of these industries to continue to exist, but then others to find transition pathways to more sustainable and environmentally positive business models is I think what we need as a planet. It's just such an exciting time for Australia and for the world, and there's so many crew looking at how we can create better outcomes using nature-based solutions.
I am incredibly hopeful about our future. We have knowledge and we're continuing to learn. If we use that superpower of knowing and combine it with the equally important superpower of caring, then there's nothing we can't do.
What gives me hope right now is young people who are really aware of the changes that we need to make and really inspired to make those changes and really educated in the importance of caring for place and this planet.
We need to take them out on country, get them connected back with country, back with nature, so people can start respecting nature and have that connection.
Everyone's lives revolve around it, whether, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, doesn't matter what language you speak, what colour skin you have, we are all together, we share the same land, we share the same ocean.
From a surfer's perspective, we spend so much time in the ocean, we live and breathe, salt water's in our veins, and we've got to protect what we have. My hope is that people will just start to come around and it'll be the little things that'll come up from a grassroots level, because the big corporations aren't going to help us out.
It's easy to feel helpless or like it's out of your control, but that's the beauty of community. It's the beauty of people getting together and talking about these issues and addressing them.
I believe in community, and I believe that if and when community comes together, that we can stop anything, and we really can. And we've seen it before, we've seen it with other projects, we've seen it for Fight for the Bite, we saw it for PEP 11.
Community noise, so a lot of paddle outs, a lot of petition writing, a lot of contacting your local MP, a lot of spokespeople from community going to Parliament and making their voices heard. Because politicians listen when you say you're upset about something because they want your vote.
Everyone has potential. You don't have to be a marine scientist, you don't have to be a politician. Every person in this world has potential to make it a better place.
When people stand together and express their opinions in a coherent, collective, peaceful manner, those in charge, those with the power, they don't have any option but to listen. And if they don't, it's at their peril. Powerful forces get overthrown.